A fighter trains with the best and wins with a KO. Kelly Orchard's podcast for successful badassery. Just as apples are a core ingredient to a healthy diet, Kelly Orchard's Apple a Day is a core ingredient to living a fruitfully badass life. Turn up your energy with Fruitful Friday. Here's Kelly Orchard.
That's right, here we are again, turning up the energy on this Fruitful Friday. Kelly Orchard, the badass certifier here. Also remind you, I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, so I don't just come up here randomly and claim to be a badass certifier without good reason. So if you want to know why I call myself the badass certifier, I suppose you can go scroll back to some of my previously published podcasts. I give my entire resume on the first couple of podcasts that started back in January. That's right, I did just launch this podcast for successful badassery on January 1st. New Year's Day was the first day, and the whole crazy idea and concept came up because basically during the COVID and during lockdown, you know, I'm a speaker and I get on and I do a lot of different topics, and I kept having these epiphanies in these episodes of creative writing and know where to put them, and realize that a lot of these things are more talking rather than writing. And if I was to write them, what am I going to do? Write another book? I've already got 5, and I've got the 6th one with my editor now. So the podcast seemed to be the next only logical solution for me to get this creative energy out. And I thank all of you for keeping to come back and hopping on the bus to Badassville with me. It is a process, and it's evolving and developing. And so today we have Fruitful Friday on this very hot July here in Southern California. The weather is always kind of funky around this time of year. Why do I know? Why do I remember so much about it? Is that my first child was born in the month of July. In fact, her birthday is just a couple of days from now. And the weather was really weird and wonky while I was in labor with her. And it was a long, arduous labor. So I remember the weather very well being, kind of like stormy and windy and thunderstorms and stuff like that. And that's exactly the weather we're having now. And so I always realized July is the crazy month. It's also another crazy month. It's Heart Lessons Month. It is the 15th anniversary this month of when I was struck down with heart failure, which was the event that derailed my entire life and career. And this isn't for me to tell you about it and feel sorry for me. This is for me to share with you that, hey, your life may have been derailed too, but with a little bit of effort and ingenuity and some stick-to-itiveness, you can reinvent your entire life if that's what you really want to do. And that's how I developed this badass program. That's right, because badass is an acronym. So July is Heart Lessons Month. That's my first book that I wrote, and I'm giving it away absolutely for free. Link is in the show notes. We're talking about successful badassery. I'm pretty excited about what's going to be coming up for you on Mustang Monday. Before I was repurposing some previous episodes to reintroduce you to them in a different format. They're all very timely and really well. It's Badass Tips from the Streets, where I invite different community leaders to hop into the seat of my Mustang and give something on their personal development or professional development. And I've got new ones coming up with all the folks here at Michelle's Place. I really can't tell you what's going to happen because they're all fresh and they're all new, and I still have to edit them and get them all pulled together. But they're in the can, basically, meaning that we've recorded some with some of the staff here at Michelle's Place, and I just can't tell you what to expect yet. You're just going to have to find out on Monday when the first one comes up. We're talking about success mindset and taking charge of your mental health. So on this Fruitful Friday, I just want to remind you that in order to have a success mindset, you got to do something about it. And since therapists and counselors are pretty much in short supply, you've got to have that badass plan now. And this is all part of it. Here you are listening to Fruitful Fridays on the podcast for successful badassery. That's part of the journey. So I've been talking a lot about emotional intelligence. That's part of and some of the tools that I provide and teach you in my badass program. I've run into people who they studied the different new training techniques that come out, and they may be old school now. It's that you have the DISC program, or you have emotional intelligence, or you have all these other kinds of programs, John Maxwell, and they're all great. I'm not saying any of them are bad. They are all fantastic. For me though, I don't like teaching somebody else's program. I've always been kind of this way. It's like if I see something that I want to do it my way, and I want to do it differently, and I want to use my creative energy. And that's where badass came from. So each letter in the word badass is an acronym, and each one of those acronyms has its own course that you can take, and you can do it at home, accessible, independent, on your own. And they have worksheets and videos that go along with the whole journey to get you licensed to be badass. And yes, when you get through all of the courses, I actually issue you a diploma. I modeled it after an actual degree diploma. And so that is what it looks like. It actually looks like a diploma that you can put up on your wall to always remind you and anybody else who sees it that you are licensed to be badass. So talking about emotional intelligence and the importance of self-awareness, the moods versus emotions. Now on Wednesday, I kind of gave you some of the important parts and components of what emotional intelligence means, but there's some importance of it, of that self-awareness, the moods that you have versus your emotions. And so this is from the Talent Smart website. Now, Talent Smart is what I quoted for you the other day. Okay, so this is where it comes from. Moods are like your framework. So if your mood runs high, either in a positive or a negative way, it can easily begin to affect your emotions and the way you react and feel a response in the world. So it's like, for example, two people are getting on a bus at the same time from the same stop. Let's just call them Marge and Adita. Okay, so they go to open the door and the driver does something bizarre. He hits the door close, the door close button, closing the bus door, and they begin to walk over. He pulls forward a bit, opens the door back up, then closes again as they approach. Marge grows angry and bangs on the door with her fist until the driver opens the door and apologizes, clearly surprised that Marge doesn't see that he was just having a little bit of fun. She brushes right by him and sits down angrily. Adita, however, sees the driver laughing, realizes he's messing around, and laughs with him as she gets on the bus. Now, this isn't the bus to Battisville, but I like the story. It has to do with the bus. And I am reading this. This is quote verbatim. So if you want to read the entire article, it's in the links in the show notes. So the driver neglected to consider that each person that arrived at the bus stop is going to have their own existing mood that affected their reactions to his prank. So Marge had lost some sleep the night before and was worrying about her sales presentation. So now she had to get up extra early because her car was in for repair. Meanwhile, Adita had just shared a nice breakfast with her family and was headed into work easily so she could catch an afternoon baseball game. So you can see how their two moods would be significantly different when somebody was playing a little practical joke on them. Your moods can last for hours, while emotions last anywhere from seconds to minutes. At most, emotions are momentary, a quick impulse to act. Moods are longer term, more muted and less intense, but they are kind of lingering framework that affects your emotions and the way you see the world. Moods are much more easily influenced than you expect. Even though moods occur over a longer period of time, it doesn't take much to influence it. Our moods can be shaped by things that are more subtle than anxiety over an upcoming presentation. Researchers have found, for example, that people and things that think things positively just sit upright rather than being slumped. If you just see that way. Or finding a coin in a phone booth after being offered milk and cookies. Many universities now offer surprise visits from puppies to students in libraries the week before finals, just to break the tense mood of that week. I can honestly say that when I was studying for my licensing exams, they were pretty tough. It's pretty grueling. You almost have to go right back to grad school just in order to be able to pass those exams, although you've been working as an intern in the field for 2 years or more before you can even take the exams. And I can honestly say, when you do something good, when something good or positive happens prior to something that's causing you anxiety, it does really help to change the tenseness of your mood. Even the weather outside and music you listen to will have a big impact on your mood. Moods are contagious, and the effects of music are so extreme that you can track it in people's posture. We tend to adopt bodily posture and attitudes expressed in the music we listen to. Now you know why I'm bringing up this particular topic today and why I'm going to share this article with you. Music has a significant impact on your mindset. So imagine, these things that you've got going on in your life, and how music and an emotional intelligence can make you aware of how you're feeling. Now, the Badass certification class I use a little bit of heart math, some neuroscience, because you are rewiring your brain when you allow music to affect your mood and your emotions. And then, of course, the emotional intelligence is showing you that it is possible for you to do this. Then I tie it all in with how we think, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, and then focus on either a narrative or the solution that you need to create. And that's how the Badass certification class was designed. And that's the short term. I call that CPR for your mental health, because it gets you an ID card. It gets you to become a certified badass. But in order to get licensed to be badass, you kind of have to go through the entire program. So remember that your moods are contagious. So going back to this same story of Adita, imagine that Adita heads into work where she manages a sales team. Feeling good about her positive interaction on the bus on the day to come, she immediately begins joking around with a couple of her direct reports. Her teammates then go into a day feeling lighter and happier, connecting with more clients more energetically, and even making a couple of unexpected sales. This may sound idyllic, but it's actually how research indicates our moods work. Emotions and moods are both quite catchy, and that's especially true in the boss to direct report relationship, where employees are extra tuned in and responsive. What does that mean? When you know how emotions affect your mood and how your mood affects your emotions in a matter of emotional intelligence, people that have highly skilled self-awareness and self-management are able to pick up on their own emotions and moods as they come and manage their actions accordingly. That's one of the main reasons that people skilled in personal side of emotional intelligence tend to be better at stress management, decision-making, and time and energy management. You can learn more about emotional intelligence by going to the Talent Smart website if you want to, or you can just continue listening to this podcast for Successful Badassery. I've always got some tips for you and really important stuff that I really want you to know about emotional intelligence and self-awareness as you continue to live successfully badass. All right, so a little bit on the apple a day today. I do have some apples for you. We've been talking a lot about saying yes to things. That's kind of been the theme for the month of July with the Apple a Day podcast. Remember, I do have another podcast. I have this one here that you're listening to, but then if you also want another one, 60 seconds on wisdom, success, and personal growth, which you can hear daily. They're really nice, bite-sized morsels. There's just 60 seconds, Kelly Orchard's Apple a Day. Just go search me again, same podcast platform you're listening to this one to, and you can catch the apple a day. For this Friday, Fruitful Friday, I want you to say yes to making new friends. Last week we were doing some adventures. This is one of my favorite things to do. Everywhere I go, I like to meet new people. Sometimes they become new friends and that lasts a lifetime. Sometimes they're friends for just a short time. But as Charles Swindoll says, I cannot imagine where I would be today if it were not for that handful of friends who have given me a heart full of joy. Let's face it, friends make life a lot more fun. If you find yourself alone on this Friday night or on a Saturday night, or even if you've let your friendships slip a little bit, like a lot of us have during this COVID, let's say yes to making new friends, or even reaching out to ones you've lost contact with. It'll be much more fun for you and a lot of fun for me to watch you do it. All right, and don't just rely on friends on social media. You need real in-person, face-to-face friendships to make your life so much more meaningful. Now, remember how I talked about how neuroscience, basically, I talk about neuroscience a lot. And earlier we were talking about emotional intelligence and music. So I want you to break out some of your favorite music this weekend for your weekend vibes. That's right. Now I've got an article for me. See, I'm finding a lot of stuff to back up what I claim because I'm not making this stuff up about music and neuroscience and how it can really impact. Remember the old saying that music soothes the savage beast? Have you ever put on tunes when a baby is having a meltdown? You put on the music, it completely shifts them once they allow themselves to hear that there's something else going on. It depends on the kind of music that you're playing for them. Emotional regulation is the essential aspect for mental health and well-being. In fact, past studies have found associations between poor emotion regulation and several psychiatric disorders, including bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, and complex PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. During their everyday life, humans can regulate their negative emotions in different ways, most of which do not require any conscious cognitive engagement. For instance, they might take a bath, step outside for fresh air, or listen to music. Researchers at Radboud University in the Netherlands have found that they did a study that aimed at investigating the effects of a short-term musical training on implicit emotion regulation. The paper published specifically examined whether musical training helped people to reduce the negative emotions elicited by unpleasant or disgusting odors. Actually, the paper draws on previous knowledge about the stability of the olfactory nose and the neuroanatomical connections, basically what you're smelling and what you're attaching that to. The negative effect of the investigation of the effects of musical training on implicit emotional regulation designed a simple experiment in which they paired negative, basically eliciting a negative emotion with a positive music to create 4 different combinations of stimuli. All right, so what did they end up doing? I'm going to share this article with you so that you can read it if you want to have all of the study all of the article and what they did. So basically, it says that patients suffering from affective disorders like depression often find themselves in an endless circle of sameness. Once confronted with triggers that lead to a negative effect, they react with negative emotions and feelings, negative body experiences and negative feelings. It can itself can trigger a new negative effect. These patients tend to end up in a negative circle or spiral, which is difficult and impossible to get out of. But with simple musical interventions for people with depression or different affective disorders, they're easy to implement and could improve their ability to regulate negative emotions. To gain a better understanding of emotion regulation, the stimuli can reduce the negative emotions. I've been doing this study with the Badass Certification class, and I can guarantee you, I promise you, with the right music, the right tunes that matter to you, you can trigger positive emotions that will shift your mindset. It is absolutely scientific, and it's like I know that it is. And I believe it. And when I lead the class, I don't go into details of it about explaining to you the why it works. I'll do that here on the podcast, the why it works. This was a scientific study of emotion regulation through music, studied by neuroscience. And I've got the article for you along with the other one on emotional intelligence, the short-term self-awareness and how to use music. Music is the quickest way to get your emotions regulated. And I teach you how to create your own badass soundtrack that you have in access on your smartphone anytime you need it. So instant attitude adjustment, CPR for your mental health. Who wouldn't want that? I don't know. I do. I use it all the time. Like I said, last Wednesday, I was telling you about my my outdoor backyard dance parties that I have in the evening. I like it because it's nice and cool. The day is done. I could just listen to my badass soundtrack and dance my little heart away. And I sleep really well and I wake up in a good mood. So that is what I want to share with you for your weekend vibes is turn up your energy with some good music, but pay attention to how you're feeling when you're listening to the music. And if you want to know how to create your own badass soundtrack, I am scheduling the badass certification class coming up very soon. Might be online, might be in person. Actually, it's probably a little bit of both. But the only way that you're going to know about it is if you keep coming back to the badass podcast, or you get on my email list. Right now, the month of July, I'm giving away my book, Heart Lessons. All this month, I have shared with you excerpts out of the book. And I really just want to share it with you. It's the 15th anniversary of when I was struck down with heart failure, which sent me on the journey to becoming a licensed marriage and family therapist. And then, of course, all of this other creative work that I've been doing. It's been quite a journey, and I share openly with you, yes, the obstacles and the challenges that I've had. Why? Because I'm not any different than you. I'm not more special. I'm not smarter. I don't have more of a badass life than you do. And I just freely share with you the program that worked for me to help me get to where I am and to continue to live this successfully badass life. So if you practice well-being in the workplace, share this with your boss or share this with your staff also, because we are practicing a success mindset, and it's time for you to take charge of your mental health. So download my free Heart Lessons book, and while you're at it, you might as well get the Badass Habits ebook, right, Bobby?
When the bus arrives at Badassville, you discover it's not a place, it's a state of being. Hop on the bus to Badassville. Snag your Badass Habits ebook. Get started on your badass journey. Go to licensedtobebadass.com.